If you're a home canner or you like preserving and freezing food, I'm sure you've came across something that you have made that your family just does not enjoy or doesn't like or doesn't eat as much of as you originally thought of. I have had that problem a few times. I've also had the problem where the husband said he could eat it a certain way, and then when it comes to eating it, he can't actually eat it because it's too seedy, which is okay. But now I have lots of jars of food in my basement that I need to use up. So instead of wasting it, let's make it into something more useful. We're going to talk about that here in just a second. But before we get started, if you're new to our channel, I'm Julia, Aaron's behind the camera, and we are the Canny Couple, a small homestead family in rural Virginia that work every single day to merge homesteading and frugality. And today we're making fruit leather because I have jars and jars and jars of fruit. These are samples in my basement of things that Aaron is okay with, but they're not his favorite, or it's so seedy he can't get through a jar fast enough for it to really make sense for me to open a jar. Because that jar can sit in my fridge for a month before it's through because there's so many seeds. And I needed to find a way to get those jars empty because I want them shelf stable and not my freezer, filling up my freezer, taking up the space that I'm going to need for more fruit in the spring that's coming up. I wanted my freezer empty, but I also need these jars because they're perfect for canning meat. And I would rather these be used for meat than anything else. And the other thing we came across was blueberry jelly. This is not the first time or the first experience we've seen with that of people not liking blueberry jelly, but Aaron didn't really care for it. He would much rather have just blueberries canned whole, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
Just pure
more
whole.
time, yeah.
But he didn't really care for the jelly. So I have all of this food in my basement I need to use up. And I thought fruit leather was a great option. And here's what the fruit leather turned out like. And I will tell you something. He will eat this. And I don't have any complaints because guess what? There's no seeds. And there's no, it's not just one type of berry. It's mixed berries. So let's show you how we're going to do that. And I'm going to show you the first step to that process. So we use the Instant Pot for this. You don't have to cook to make fruit leather, but for me it makes better sense and it does do better. Our berries are so seedy that we really have to run them through, cook them in some way. Between the boysenberries, the loganberries, the blackberries, I think the blackberries are probably the worst for the seeds. Wouldn't you say?
Yes,
You're the one that eats
yeah,
them.
they're the worst.
But they are really, really seedy and they could be really large or really hard to get the seeds out. I've spent many hours trying to get them out with a, like one of the really fine mesh colanders in a spoon, and that just doesn't work for us. So we found some ways to make it work, and we're also taking those jars of fruit, of syrup. Syrup is another great one if you have syrup that you were trying to make jelly from. It didn't set up, you can use it to make fruit leather. And this is what like the end product looks like. And the other part of this is it does not take up near as much space in this form as it does in this form. It will use way less space. I get from these 8 trays, we use an Excalibur dehydrator. From these 8 trays, it gives me about 2.5 quarts of fruit leather. And this is a great snack for Aaron to have in the summer. Also, because I'm using jarred jelly, it's already got all the sugar in it, I don't have to add any ingredients. I just have to do a little bit of extra work. So let me show you how we start the cooking down process, and then I'm going to show you what we do next. So here's what we're working with to get rid of some things in some jars and also some things out of my freezer. So first I have a gallon bag here of berries. You can tell the bag's ripped a little bit. That's because I smashed it with the mallet to break the berries apart. Now, I feel like a mallet's one of the most underused kitchen tools ever, so I use my mallet for everything like that. And then we also have some jars of mixed berries and blueberry syrup. What else do we have here? I have blueberry jelly, and we also have mixed berries here. So we're gonna use all of it. We're going to use all of it. This is going to get me 6 more jars. It's going to get this out of my freezer. And as we dehydrate it, it's actually going to go from being this many jars to like 2 jars. So it goes down to nothing. So let's get started and let me show you how I do this. Now I use the Instant Pot for a lot of this. You can do this on the stove. A lot of people make fruit leather without cooking it. I have found for the berries, especially our berries, they're so seedy. So I don't know if you can see like all those little specks there. That's the berries, and that's also seeds. So our berries are crazy seedy, like so seedy, and it makes it really hard for Aaron to eat. So the first thing I'm going to add in here to my Instant Pot, which it is clean, it just looks a little rough, it gets used a lot, is the jelly. So Aaron does not like blueberry jelly. He just didn't. He loves blueberries, but he did not care for the blueberry jelly at all. So I have all this blueberry jelly that I can't really use it for anything. It's got the sugar, it's got everything in it, so why not take it and use it for fruit leather, because it's a mixed berry fruit leather and it tastes so much better for him. So we're just going to throw it all in there, and this one comes out a lot easier because it's the wide mouth. We're going to break it up at the bottom. I'll show you what that looks like. Super easy, super simple. And yes, it's already been cooked. All these jars have already been cooked. What I'm doing is, instead of adding water to this, I'm going to let the Instant Pot and the liquid from here be the water. So it works out really well. You can just see, these are so seedy. The amount of seeds that comes from these things is crazy. And the mixed berries, it's mostly blackberries, but it's also going to probably be some boysenberries, some loganberries, all of those things. And I'm really trying to get our freezer cleaned out because berry season is almost here. Here you go, you see these? They've been in the freezer. They look lovely, but they're not edible this way. They're so seedy. Aaron first told me I can eat the seeds, and then it turned out no, he can't eat the seeds. It's too seedy. So this is how we go about dealing with the seeds. Now again, you can use your pot, you can do this on the stove, but for electricity usage, then the pot's the way to go. And I'm going to throw the rest of it in here. And I can actually get some more syrup in there. So I'm going to get as much as I can. Now if I don't get all this syrup in here, that is okay. I'm okay with that. I can add it later and they'll be hot enough and it will dissolve. So this is a blueberry syrup. We're just going to pour it in there. Here's another blueberry syrup. It's just going to be really nice. Aaron really likes it this way. And it's just going to save us so much room and money because we don't have to use extra sugar to make this, because these already have sugar in it, and Aaron's not particularly fond of them this way, so it just works. Let's get my spoon back. Now make sure, and it looks really full now. It will not be this full when I take it out. It will absolutely not. It goes way down after it cooks. And now I'm probably not going to add the last little bit. I will add this after this cooks because this has already been cooked down. But I need those berries to cook. So here's what it looks like, and I have to be very careful. Looks lovely, beautiful. It is over the max, but it will cook down. So it will not be that full. I'm going to get this in the Instant Pot. I'm going to use the manual button. I will cook it for 5 to 10 minutes. This I'll cook for 10 because it's really frozen. If your berries are frozen, that's okay. You can still do it in your Instant Pot or your pot. You don't have to wait for them to thaw. That's just extra time I don't have. So I'm going to get this in, and when we come back, I will show you how we get the seeds out and how we're going to make this something that is more palatable for my family. Our berries have cooked. They have cooled. They're not so hot that it's going to scald me whenever we actually go through and work on this. And here is what they look like. They didn't cook down as much as my last batch did. And I did add those other berries here to it. And here is how we're going to get the seeds out of these, because they are very, very seedy. It is my fancy, I don't know what they are called, but it does separate. Food meal. It's a food meal. And Aaron got me this for Christmas, and I was like, why did he get me this? Because I've looked at these before and I had mixed reviews, and it took me a long time to decide to actually go with this, but it does work really, really well, especially if the berries have cooked some. That was one of the reviews I had read before. If you cook the berries for a little bit, they do run through this a lot smoother than if you're trying to do them fresh or just in the food processor. I guess it depends on like how seedy your berries are. And again, our blackberries are insanely seedy. But this has been a time saver. What this would have before taken me hours to do. This takes me, what, 30 minutes?
Well, I don't know. I haven't actually watched you do this one.
Well, you did that the other day. He's forgotten. Okay, so here's what we do. I need a bowl because this bowl is not going to be big enough to hold all those berries. So what we'll do is we'll put it in and we will transfer over to this bowl. And again, I don't have to add any sugar, but if I were doing berries that needed extra sugar, even though there's berries that were frozen in here, I would add sugar in this bowl towards the end. And we're just going to take a measuring cup. You can see the steam coming off of it. And I would also have a towel nearby because this is messy. Have a towel nearby. You do not care if it gets messed up or gets berry juice on it because this is a little bit messy. And I'm going to do just 2.5 or 1.5 scoops of this to run it through. Okay. And if you want to come closer and show what this looks like, and here we go. As you can see, it starts to push all that wonderful through. I've been getting my use out of this thing. I've been making sure to focus on having one batch of fruit leather in the dehydrator right now for about every other day. And then I just turn it and keep working through until we get most of that good stuff out of there. And I'll show you what the bottom of it looks like. So you can kind of see it does pull out all the good stuff. So you've been eating the fruit leather now for a little while. Have you had any seeds in it yet?
No seeds.
Because I've been giving you a little bit.
Yep.
About every lunch, just a smidge. Mm-hmm. Or if you want something sweet.
It's more of a tangy sweetness you can think of.
Because of the berries.
Because of the berries.
So then, when I'm ready, and now if these get too seedy on the bottom of this, I have to empty the seeds out and I put them in my scrap bucket and I give those to the chickens. They love them. So I'll put a little bit more in here. Then I'll show you the next step because I have a batch ready to go. And like I said, I always try to stay 1 or 2 batches ahead. Right now is the best time to do this because we don't have the stove going. The house isn't warm. It's not hot outside. So it's a great time to actually run this through in our area because it's not too hot, not too cold, and it's not going to burn us up. That's why we held off on doing this in the summertime. I really don't want that dehydrator going in the summertime, pushing off extra heat in the house. You can just see, this is how much stuff we've already got now inside the bowl. It's worked out really, really well. So what we do after we get to a certain amount, and I don't let this get too full because if I get it too full, what will happen is I'll have a bit of a mess like I'm about to have right now. Okay. And then I'm going to transfer this over. And normally I would wait until I'm completely finished before I added anything else to this, but I want to show you how we add to our stuff here. And again, this is a towel. It's clean. I just don't care if it gets stained. Now we're going to add our lemon juice, and I use 1/2 cup, and that's about 1/2 cup here for this whole batch, and that's all I need. Ooh. So I almost make a mess. And I'm going to put it all in here, and I like to do this all at once. I don't like adding it to the individual quarts because this is where I make sure the sugar's right, everything's right. I just throw it all in there, take it through this little food mill. It works so much better. so much better. So I will do all of this after, but let me show you what this looks like beforehand, because I do have a couple of jars ready to go. So as you can see, this has been sitting. It's going to be lovely and thick, and you can see all of this wonderful, beautiful, thick syrup that's ready to go. And I'll show you how we put it on our tray. So as you can see, I have a whole bunch of trays here. It's ready to come off. And all I do, you can use a knife, you can put it on something. All I really do is take it, just break it. And this is what you're looking for. I could tell you, you can do this for 15 hours. I can tell you, you're gonna do this for 24 hours. It's really gonna be based off of where you live and the actual texture you want. I want these to be as dry as possible, because the drier they are, the longer it's going to last. This is important. My other thing here with this is, not only do I want it dry, I also want to make sure it's done, because I feel like a lot of the times when we would follow the books on how long you're supposed to dehydrate things, like apples, it would say you need to dehydrate apples for 8 hours. I'm going to tell you something, my apples were not done in 8 hours. They never were. I felt like it took 3 times longer than the books actually said for full dehydration. So it depends on what you're wanting it for, how quick you're going to eat it. These are going to go in our cabinet. I'm going to put them in a jar separated with parchment paper and just let them sit there. And I'm going to give Aaron a little bite here so he can do a quick taste test. This is not something I can actually have right now. But you see how it just, you can probably hear it. It just crisps, crumbles.
That's good.
It's good. This one has more blueberry in it.
I can taste more blueberries.
But you like that?
Mm-hmm.
What's that blueberry jelly?
Mm.
So I had quite a bit of blueberry jelly from 2022 that we're using up here.
I will say one thing about it. It sticks to your teeth.
Like all of these things
Like all the
do.
fruit like leather does. So.
Just something to be considerate of and beware of. I will say, for these, anything that you're doing, you really need the silicone mats. I would not do this without the silicone mats. There's no way. I've tried parchment paper, and that was a mess. God, that was awful. So I'm just going to set these over here, because I'll get out a clean jar and put them in and get those sealed up and finish breaking all of this down. But I literally just break these up. And the way I put them in here, I have cut parchment paper. This is where I do use parchment paper. You see we have a little bit here saved because it's still good. And I just do them in little sections like this. And that's what Aaron gets whenever he's ready.
Sort of separate them.
Just separate them.
Paper.
So he doesn't pull out the whole thing. So we have little sections of it he can pull out and eat as he needs to in between each one. It does take time. It does take a little bit of work, but it's okay because I'm not wasting the product. It's actually getting eaten. Because we have put away a ton of berries.
Yes.
A ton of berries over the years. And in all reality, we're looking at trying to go to smaller freezers. I can't waste the freezer space for these. Some of them I can, but these berries, they actually do better if I preserve them in another way. Wouldn't you say? Is this your preferred method compared to canned? I know you like the blueberries whole.
I like some of them whole. I do.
But the ones that are seedy.
Ones that are seedy, I like the seeds out of them.
I know, and it's very hard to do those whole. So here's what we have, and we have the silicone mat. You're like, Julia, you didn't wash it. Yes, because I'm going from one batch of fruit leather to the other. It doesn't need to be washed. If you want to wash them in between, you go ahead. For me, I'm okay with this. Are you okay with this?
I'm okay with it.
It's still clean because I'm telling you, these things, it doesn't stop. I've not stopped in days. And now I've got to be very careful because you think you can go to this rim. You cannot go to this rim. Ask me how I know. It will take about half of a jar. So each of these pots makes me about 4.5 quarts, and this is a batch. So one pot for me makes a whole batch. We'll fill up all 8 trays. Now I could go a little bit, I could pour it out some. It was really full. And we don't want to go more than half of a jar. see it's half a jar. I just kind of eyeball it. And then you could come here and tell you could see it looks seedy, but I think it's just the berries, because like I said, Aaron's been eating this for several weeks now. He's not came across any seeds. And you can shake it a little bit, just kind of get it to your edges, but you got to be careful with these. But you want to make sure your silicone mat has edges, because again, this is berry juice and it will just run it over. And then I will get this in the dehydrator and it will cook until it's done, until I get to this texture, a little sticky but not too sticky, and it just cracks when I tear it. When I get to this texture, I know I'm ready to start putting it away. Most of the time it takes me about 24, 48 hours, 2 to 3 days, because we don't run it at night. We stop it at night. We turn it back on in the morning. So it usually takes 2 to 3 days to get to this texture. When I'm on my last day, I start my next batch. So I always have a batch in the refrigerator, and I have a batch in the refrigerator ready to go when that batch is done. So I'm not running around to get it, but it does work out really well. So we go from this stuff to this, and you can tell the thickness here, super thin. It's like paper thin, super, super thin. And this is about halfway up. So you can tell there's a definite thickness difference here between them. And I'll tell you, it just stores so much better in this form. It takes way less space. So I'm okay with it. I'm using up ingredients that we have. We weren't going to eat any other way. And I'm not wasting any food. So it has worked really well for our family as an alternative to what I currently had in my pantry, which I could always take it out and make other things. I can make mixed berry dumplings. I can make a whole bunch of other stuff, but in all reality, this makes more sense for us because summertime's coming. Summertime, I need snacks. Aaron works outside. It's hot. I don't want to cook snacks. I'd like them just to be grab and go. So when we get these finished, I put them in a jar like this. We have one jar open, but the other jars are all sealed. So we seal the tops, put a ring on them, keep them in a cool, dark place, and they will stay good till we're ready to use them again. So do you have anything else to add, Aaron?
No, I will say, like, you know, like I will have a handful at a time of these when I do eat them. It makes a good
Little snack.
Good snack. A little bit of sweetness to it
tart
as well. Yep.
So I feel like this is the best way to use what we have on hand, don't you?
Agree.
Because you weren't going to eat it any other way.
No, not with that many seeds. I felt like it was just too hard to eat.
It's like, I just keep eating seeds. And then he doesn't want to eat anymore, which is fine. I understand. So you'll see more videos like this from us because we definitely want to make sure we're using what we have. And we all, in our growing pains on our homestead, learn what really works for our family and what doesn't. Not all these work for my family. I wish they all did, but they don't. We were talking about the canned sausage patties. Those did not work for our family. But canned sausage, just ground up, does. It works very, very well for my family. So learning what works for you, what works for your family is really key and most important here. This works super well for mine. It's more convenient, it's easier, and it takes up less space. And I get jars back that I need canned meat and other things. So let me know in the comments below. Have you had any food processing, food prepping, food preserving mistakes that you made? I'd love to hear about them. Am I the only one that makes something that my family is just like, oh, it's okay, but I would rather eat something else? I'd love to hear that in the comments below. And as always, make sure you check out our link tree where you'll see all of our other content. And thank you for joining us on the Canny Couple, where we work hard, live simple, and enjoy life. Have a wonderful day.